So for the first game today, we're playing Bretonnia against the smaller forces of the Lizardmen. Looking like a box. It's actually going pretty wide. Some Pterodon riders and a whole bunch of Saurus spears. We've brought with us some cavalry and also Lewin with his armor debuffs. Going to see if we can snipe out Mazdamundi. And if we can, that'll be a pretty solid position for us. Our cavalry can pressure all the Saurus. We're just going to advance and try to get our archers in range here. Lewin will continue to shield away the Pterodon riders. We'll proc Foe Seeker so he can actually help out my archers a little bit faster. We're also going to try to dodge any drop rocks that come our way if we do see the Pterodons positioning in front of us. There we go, these guys are moving up. We're going to advance with our peasants, as that's usually a pretty solid way of dodging the drop rocks. Be focusing the Pterodon riders, and our archers will also be focusing these Saurus spears. Mazdamundi is charging in. We're going to turn all of our peasants onto him, and then see if we can hit him with some armor debuffs. So we'll give him minus, we'll give him minus 30 armor with Lewin and our caster. He's hitting up a lot of our peasant archers though. So we'll see if how much damage you can actually get done here. Mazdamundi is taking quite a beating, although my knights are getting a little bit caught themselves. But if we can just really focus down the Saurus here, I think we should be fine. The Lizardmen have actually gone for a much looser formation than they usually do. So we'll see how it plays out. We have our knights slamming into the backs of the Saurus now. We've taken a lot of damage on that front. And more Saurus spears are coming in. See how our caster is doing. Okay, but not great. And let's see, we'll have to be a little bit careful. Taking a lot of damage, but Mazdamundi has taken quite a bit himself too. We are losing a lot of our peasant archers, but if we can clear out the core infantry of the Lizardmen, that may be enough to win it out from there. So we'll have to see. Bring in our cavalry to shield off the solar engines again. And Lewin will be continuing focus Mazdamundi. We still have a bunch of archers here too. And we'll also debuff their armor to help get just a little bit more damage in. If we can get some mass routes here, that would be absolutely amazing. Our archers have spread out to make it harder for the Pterodons to actually catch them. But now it appears some nets are coming down. And if some AoEs hit me, that would be very painful. So we're sort of just holding our breath to see how that goes. Mazdamundi's pretty good too, and our knights are getting caught up. So we're going to have to try and evacuate them while Lewin continues to chase Mazdamundi. Balance of power is tipping out of our favor. That's a little bit of a worry. But Lewin may be able to carry it out himself. It's just that, man, our cavalry getting caught was really bad. We got sandwiched. And we also didn't have an air force to defend our archers. Nevertheless, we'll still continue to try pushing on to pull back with our forces. And if we can just get a big pick here, that would be the hope. Although the Saurus spears are going to be very hard to deal with, we'll just have to see how it plays out. So Lewin putting in a good amount of damage. Pterodon riders are able to rout off my peasants. And I think we probably had too many peasant archers, but let's keep on fighting them and see how this goes. Eventually, Lewin, after fighting here, he'll have to bounce back to fight off the solar engines. But let's see if we have any mobile forces left. We do still have some cavalry. It's not great, but it may be enough. We also have a few units of archers too. So we'll see if they're able to win out the day here. Let's see here. Mazdamundi is getting pretty low now. He can't really duel Lewin without Saurus support. That's pretty good. Some of our archers are back. We've routed off some Pterodon riders here in the distance. So not all hope is lost. We have some knights too We'll leave them in the forest until we need that mobility against the infantry of the lizardmen. And we're going to escort these pterodon riders off. As long as we have archers here to support, I'm still feeling pretty confident. Lewin should be able to kill Mazdamundi too. So let's see how little life he has. He's at 600. So it only takes a few more hits to actually finish him off. Looks like, let's see here. He should be able to kill him soon. The big buff comes down, and I think it's going to be better to just cycle charge with Lewin instead. As for these pterodon riders, we'll keep making sure that they actually get off the map. Lewin will try to disengage, and these Saurus will start cycle charging them with our remaining cavalry. In the distance, there are still pterodon riders left. Not great, but at the same time, not terrible. We just have to make sure that we can defend our peasants here. These pterodon riders too are holding up so that Lewin can't chase Mazdamundi, but I think I'll actually take that trade since Lewin is actually he's pretty happy killing these guys. Mazdamundi will come back, but if we just charge him in the back, we should be able to kill him. And then from there, it's just chasing off the pterodon riders. Solar engines are firing in onto Lewin, but he's still regenerating. Still has pretty high HP, and with the land on Mazdamundi, we'll see if we can kill him. Looks like we might not be able to catch him. So my choice not to chase him off, not paying dividends. Another solar engine shot comes down, but it hits a tree. And let's see here. We're gonna chase off some pterodon riders now. We really want them off the map for our remaining archers to stay safe. We're just regrouping our forces. And from there we should be able to do good. Man, Mazdamundi is very low though, and I think we're going to move in with Lewin. Try and snipe him out. These Bastillodons will be quite a pain too. But we have archers firing in on them. We're moving in with the damsels just to stall for time. And Lewin can debuff Mazdamundi, land, and hopefully kill him. But he's actually taking a lot of damage himself, and we don't want Lewin to rout here. He does manage to kill Mazdamundi, but he routs off himself. That's actually pretty bad. If he does manage to rally, then that would be our saving grace. But oh man, those chameleon skinks finish him off. And I think that's going to be just barely GG there. Oh, man. No. So, big mistake there. We actually took a lot of damage on Lewin going into the late game. And if we had finished off Mazdamundi earlier and avoided the solar engine shots, he probably could have carried the game there. He would have heal capped, killed off the Bastillodons, and then it would have just been cycle charging these guys to death. But I definitely took too many archers. The pterodon riders were able to shut them down. Having like Paladin or some Pegasus Knights would have done better. But cool. GG. So for the second game against Dr. Jellyfish, I had the name incorrect previously, but now it is good. We're going for a rush build. Bought ourselves a lot of handgun bats, and it looks like my opponent has actually gone for a mass goblin build, vanguarding and advancing into my position. So Silastra immediately getting her ability. Her abilities are getting shut down. But right now I'm feeling pretty confident just because we're able to cause a lot of terror in my opponent's backline. We're summoning the damn Knights Errant to charge into the Goblin Archers so that they can't fire. Our bombers will be shutting down the front line. Gallows Giant will be routing off some units of trolls. Be sending in the handgun mobs in there too. And currently it looks like we might have just secured this with our build. Things are going quite well with mass routes from the greenskins. And it seems like he might have just overspec'd for a defensive build from me. Instead, with our rush, we're able to rout off the goblins very quickly. We're using our scurvy dogs to just run past the chariots to chase off the goblins. And our bats will be able to snipe out the single entities. Silostra is taking a little bit of damage herself, but not enough to actually be worrying. And with the scurvy dogs chasing off all the archers, I think we're good to go. Gallows Giant will be firing in onto any units that are about to rout. And I think that's about it for the greenskin infantry front. So a very nice starting engagement for us. Silostra is taking a lot of damage from these stone trolls though. So we'll simply pull her back and try and get her into a safer position. Goblin Great Shaman will try to snipe him out using our deck gunners. So we're not really too worried about the single entities here either. It's just that these skirmishers will be a little bit of a problem. And Silostra is a little bit low. Vindictive Glare goes down on her and she actually will be dying. Pretty not optimal, but we still have the Gallows Giant. We're still sniping out the Orc Big Boss. We still have bombers in the sky doing quite well. The skirmishers will run out of ammo soon enough. And with the Orc Big Boss gone, there's not a lot of AP or single entity fighting power to really finish off the Gallows Giant. So that should be fine. We'll just regroup with our infantry and continue to chase off these goblins with our mobile forces. So here we go. The trolls should be routed off too now that the big boss is gone. And we still have half ammunition on our handguns, which is a nice saving grace here. Trolls are now routing. And we just have to make sure that our scurvy dogs actually manage to keep safe. As for all of the skirmishers, we'll hit them with the Gallows Giant. And for anything that jumps on top of the Gallows Giant, we have Mourngulls. Generally a pretty nice position. We still have a unit of dogs alive. And we still have a unit of Deck Dropper bombers. So we're feeling pretty nice. The Vindictive Glare will be going down onto my bats, but he'll really only kill a few models, maybe 2 or 3 at most. And yeah, we should be good. I'll now focus fire the Great Shaman, and with our defensive position around the Gallows Giant, we should be good. He actually Vindictive Glares the Gallows Giant, but its high armor manages to negate most of the damage there. And now it's just sniping out these priority targets, stuff like the trolls and the Goblin Great Shaman. So a hit from the Gallows Giant should be able to rout that off. We're focusing on routing them over actually killing them, since their leadership is so low. All we really need to do is rout them off 3 times, and then they'll be off the battlefield permanently. Gallows Giant still has a lot of ammunition too, so we're feeling pretty good. We actually have a mass rout here on the left side for the greenskins, so we'll chase that off with our handgun bats and save ammunition where we can. We'll just keep the troops in the range of fire, and that will usually be enough to keep them routing. If they do come back, we can target them with a few shots, and then we should be good. Now the Gallows Giant is going down, but we do have Mourngulls, and just with the Mourngulls, we could probably win most of the fights here. Managed to rout off the Night Goblins for the 3rd time. And even though another Vindictive Glare is going down onto the Gallows Giant, I think it served well enough. And we should be good. Now, this Night Goblin Great Shaman, he is a little bit of a pain, actually really hard to catch. But I think our dogs should be able to finish him off. We'll also use the dogs to chase off these Spider Rider archers. And if we can catch the Shaman with our Mourngulls, I think we'll be just fine. The more Spider Riders are coming in, so we'll pull away with our dogs and see if we can get a better engagement. Instead, diving in onto these spiders with the Mourngulls and our dogs means that they'll be fairly well protected. We'll be good to go. The trolls are now routed off too, and I think this game is won. Nevertheless, we'll still have to be careful not to throw it, as that is always a possibility. Black Orc Big Boss actually did manage to come back. But he's at low enough leadership where I think just the undead traits will be able to rout him off as soon as he takes any damage. Some Night Goblin archers are here too, but they should rout off after our bombers get to them. So also not too much of a worry. Our dogs are still at high HP, but a Crown of Command coming down on the Forest Goblin Spider Riders means that they'll be fighting almost to the death, or at least until the Crown of Command runs out. But here we go, we're seeing the main benefit of bringing in these handgun bats. We can fire them in onto these chariots, and without them we would have actually been in a pretty bad situation. Another Vindictive Glare comes down onto my Mourngulls. They're still at pretty high model count, so no big worry there, and it looks like it's going to be a GG for my opponent. So nice. Actually ended up being pretty close. I think Silostra took a lot of damage from that Black Orc Big Boss, and also from the Trolls. A little bit of a misplay there, but just having a rush build into something like this, we really routed off things just extremely quickly, and that helped us to a win. Ooh, all right. Nice. Dogs did well. Mourngulls did well. Gallows Giant did well too. But really, these handgun flying bats, they were the real carries here. So here we go. For my final game against Jellyfish, we've gone for Wood Elves against his Skaven, opting for a kite style of play. His army, the Doom Wheel, some Warp Fire Throwers, and Poison Wind Globadiers. Actually, looking like he's not showing his entire army. So we'll have to be wary of that. And see if we can actually find wherever he has placed his troops. For now, though, we'll be moving up with our army and sniping him out with our single entities here. Some Jezzails are firing in onto the Sisters of Twilight, but their stagger animation actually manages to save them. And we can progress quite aggressively with our archers here. As long as the Sisters of Twilight actually continue juking here, should be able to avoid most of the damage from the Jezzails. And that stagger animation will be helping out a lot. Missile attacks onto the Doom Wheel. Chunk it down quite well. It's already down to half HP. Now that our Deepwood Scouts are in range, we no longer have to be advancing. We'll be firing in onto the weapon teams here. And then we should be good. Weak Head Taker, a pretty easy target to snipe out. We'll just be peppering him down and continue to pressure with the Deepwood Scouts. Doom Wheel is moving forwards. And the Jezzails are still somewhere in there. They might fire in on me, so we'll keep dancing around with the Sisters of Twilight. And also moving with this, Deepwood... No, with the Waystalker. Just to make sure that he stays safe too. Doom Wheel has moved into the forest to engage onto my Sylvan Knights. We'll just pull them back. And then bring in the Sisters of Twilight to support. Deepwood Scouts can now, I guess, fire in onto the Globadiers. But it looks like we actually have some Death Runners coming in through the back. So we'll begin pulling away from them. And then we should be fine. We'll bring in the Sylvan Knights too. And yeah, we'll just be continuing to kite. Shouldn't be too difficult. And the Sisters of Twilight, we're not too worried about them taking damage either, since they do have that, they do have some really nice healing. So all in all, things are going quite well. But the Plague Priest is moving in. And we'll screen them back with our archers and the Sylvan Knights. But the Death Runners will fire in on them with our archers. And I guess we'll continue to take out the Warp Fire Throwers. Let's see here with our Deepwood Scouts. We're basically just firing in on any targets that we can. Because we have more than enough ammunition for this situation. Warp Fire Throwers are moving in now. We have finished off the Doom Wheel, which is a very large pick for us. And I guess next up after these Warp Fire Throwers is killing off the heroes. for Skaven. The Plague Priest is moving in, and we'll be using the Sisters of Twilight to chase them off. Some Death Runners are continuing to run in, but now we have the Sisters of Twilight diving in onto this Plague Priest. Jezzails are firing onto them. So I think we're going to start establishing a plan to get our cavalry to shut them down since they're over here. We've routed off the Plague Priest now, which is great, and we'll be using the Sylvan Knights to really defend our frontline fight. Let's see, Plague Priest does actually come back though, and we'll have to get a few more cycle charges in to actually rout him off. Sisters of Twilight are taking quite a bit of damage too, but now that the healing effect is procced, we just have to dodge with them until they get their big heal. This is the main reason why I like to take the Sisters of Twilight. It's because they can be oh so hard to actually finish off. The more Jezzail fire does come in, Sisters of Twilight get very low. But let's see here. Oh man, they do actually break off. But are they gone permanently? It looks like they will be coming back. So a bit of a misplay there on me, actually taking more damage than I should have on them. But nevertheless, I think we've done enough to secure a victory here. Sisters of Twilight should be coming back too momentarily. And we still have all of our range units alive too. Sylvan Knights are good also. And the Council Guard won't really be able to kill them fast enough. We're now seeing mass routs from the Skaven. Sisters of Twilight are back. And that's gonna be GG from our opponent. So nice, just a straight up kite game against them. Working out pretty well. He didn't have any poison wind mortars. And we almost lost the Sisters of Twilight, but that was more of a mistake on my part. We'll go ahead and take a screenshot of that. Take a look at some damage values, and yeah, it worked out pretty well. Everything was really able to just take the right engagements, and his army really wasn't set up too well to deal with a kite build. We just sniped out his heroes, sniped out his single entities, and negated the damage of the Jezzails with our passive abilities. But anyways, we have a game to get into. We're just fitting in a quick battle before the main tournament event. And it's going to be Bretonnia versus Beastmen. Guess what? We're facing up against a lot of Razor Gore, some Minotaurs with great weapons, and some Chaos Warhounds. Brought with us some air cavalry, some ground cavalry, and a couple archers to pressure these guys too. So these, Destroyers of Drakewald won't pose too much of a threat, as we can just fire into them with our archers. We'll rout off some of these Ungor spearmen with a swift charge and disengage. And they should terror out in just a second, but it looks like I miscalculated slightly. And it appears we will be taking a little bit more damage than I would have expected there. Nevertheless, things still going pretty well. And for these Razor Gore herd, we'll be able to land a pretty solid charge. I'm now going to turn my camera like so I can keep an eye on those dogs, the hounds. We'll be moving in our cavalry to engage on top of them. Now we really want to disengage from this position. That's because of the Minotaurs. So we'll just throw down a heal. We'll throw down an Awakening of the Wood, and that should be able to slow them down enough. The hounds are routed off, and the peasants are actually holding a decent amount of time, which is great for the front line. Keeping the archers firing, and we're making sure with our knights that these guys won't be able to push through. So just continuous cycle charging should do the job. And now we got to decide where we want to send the majority of our strength. I think we want to rout off this far flank, since yeah, there's a lot of infantry here, and I think we should be able to get them we should be able to secure this flank with our cavalry advantage. It buys time to avoid the Minotaurs. That should be good. We're seeing a huge mass rout coming in from the Beastmen, and with the majority of our cavalry forces here, I'm feeling decently confident. Can throw down a big heal onto this blob here, if I can throw it down. There we go. And this is a pretty nice engagement. We've saved some peasants. And now we can collapse in onto the center line. However, losing my left flank means that we won't really be able to keep our peasant archers safe anymore. They're actually getting pretty overrun now. But as long as we can keep one alive, it means we'll be able to capitalize on that poison effect. Let's see. Oh, our caster actually is taking a lot of damage. Big misplay on my part. We'll see if we can actually save her here. And we'll do that by using Lewin to charge in onto these Minotaurs. We'll send in some cavalry to charge into them. And then see if we can get our paladin in also. We have a few buffs that we can throw down. We have some infantry engaged. But the, the man rippers here from the beastmen are going to be pretty threatening. They might actually kill off all my knights here, and a big chaos spawn summon does go down. So not optimal. Nevertheless, as long as we can escape with our knights here, I think we should fare decently. Our caster does come back too. We'll immediately throw down a heal. And having this nice blob here is really good for our peasant archers to hit them with the poison effects. We've positioned away from the Koroks man rippers so that our knights are taking as little damage as possible from them as possible. So with that, I think we should be good. We've hit the Minotaurs quite hard. They've taken a lot of damage so far, and they're low enough where they're not much of a threat anymore. Really, it's just these halberds from my opponent that we have to worry about, and we should be able to chase them off with enough cycle charging, but it's not without risk given how much mass is actually here. Our knights are coming back though, which is great, and we are letting Lewin get surrounded here. And what this does is it gives us nice opportunities to charge with our troops into the backs of the beastmen. That should be able to trigger some big routes here. Sending in the paladin too, and with the big sandwich with our cavalry, that should be a large swing in our favor, as long as we calculated it correctly. However, it looks like it will be. We see mass routes from the beastmen, and a pretty good engagement. We just have to make sure that we have space to actually pull out if things get too hairy. Specifically, if the man rippers actually find a good position onto my cavalry, we definitely don't want to be dying there. So it looks like by actually getting those guys to rout, things worked out pretty well for our cavalry. And we'll now wheel them around to deal with the remainder of the beastman mobility, targeting the Razorgore herd. And without any mass left, I think we might have secured the victory here. Lewin is an absolute beast, and you really have to be able to pin him down to do well. Let's see, yeah. So yeah, with no more mass, I think we're okay. There are still some Minotaurs, but nevertheless, not too worrisome. We'll just be regrouping our troops, and hopefully, finishing off the beastmen here without too much of an issue. My paladin does get caught up, but the Minotaurs disengage, probably since my cavalry is so close. Means that we'll be able to wheel around and hopefully get them routed. So we'll just charge straight in. There's no mass here, and the summons from Moker are gone. So as soon as these guys rout, we can easily disengage without too many losses. Just pull through the section of beastmen that is thinnest, and we'll be good to go. Still have a bunch of peasant archers, and we'll be using them to kill off the man rippers. As for the Ungor spearmen herd, we can rout them off with Lewin and the Hippogriff Knights. And unless my opponent has a lot of spirit leeches left, we're not too worried. And the reason I don't think he has too many spirit leeches is because he did summon a Cygor earlier in the game, and that presumably used up a lot of Winds of Magic. Now, while the Hippogriffs chase off the Ungor spearmen, we'll use Lewin to cycle charge the single entities. And we're free to do this without any guilt, since we do have these poison archers firing in. The Man Rippers can't really do much to stop Lewin from landing here. So we should be good. Ungor Spearmen in the distance are low enough where we can chase them with our more damaged knights. And that allows us to bring in our more expensive cavalry to help out in the center. Lewin is surrounded, but as soon as we get another point of Winds of Magic, we should be able to use the Awakening of the Wood. And then that should work out pretty well. A big Spirit Leech does come in, and the Bestigors do actually brace up against the charge of the Hippogriffs, but because Lewin is engaged, they actually lose their brace, and we can charge in now to rout them off. They should be taking a lot of damage, but their leadership actually got buffed up. That might have been because of Mogr, I'm not entirely sure. So we'll do a quick disengage. It looks like the leadership actually does fall on them, and we do get a terror rout from them. I'm not sure what that buff was, but presumably it was something since the leadership did spike to quite a bit. But now that they're actually routed, we're feeling much more comfortable. We'll just send in the peasants to bog down the single entities here of my opponent, and then use Lewin to finish them off. Archers have used up all of their ammunition, a sign that I protected them pretty well. And with Mogr off the battlefield, I do believe that is going to be GG. All about clearing up the rest of the single entities. I did lose all of my cavalry this game, which is a sign that I made some misplays, for sure. But I think we still did okay. Still, in general, I feel like my cavalry micro has been really lacking recently. I just keep losing them. Don't know why. Well, I know why. It's because I'm not controlling them well. But anyways, there's a victory. He has hit army losses. GG, well played. And now it's set up for the tournament. Oh, Nelle. So end off that game. Make sure people are checked in. And then we'll be good to go. Nice. So let's take that screenshot. How well did our cavalry do? They actually did okay, paying for themselves. So maybe it wasn't the worst thing in the world that I actually traded them out. Nevertheless, I think I probably still could have played better there. I think the common trend is that my cavalry gets caught up in spears pretty often. So I'll just need to figure out a way to maneuver around that.